crying human faces appearing on the ground, supernatural or a dark past. On a foggy autumn evening in 1971, in the small town of Bélmez, Spain, the appearance of faces on the walls of an ordinary house carved a chilling and unforgettable mark in history. This house was not just made of stone and mortar. Its walls carried the traces of an unknown force, harboring a secret both eerie and captivating, as if emerging from the past. The faces that appeared on the walls at times seemed to bleed with red stains, as if they were wounded. From that day on, the walls of the Bélmez house began to speak. The stories they told invited the audience into the depths of the unknown, unfolding an astonishing and terrifying tale. Bélmez, despite being a small town, would become the center of paranormal events that were initially unnoticed by the local people, but later gained international attention. In 1971, during routine cleaning by the homeowner, face-like imprints were discovered on the floor of the house, and these faces continued to reappear. At first, this was dismissed as a result of the cleaning process or the natural deterioration of old flooring materials. However, over time, the faces on the walls became increasingly clear, resembling real human expressions, and in some cases, appeared to bleed slightly. The household referred to these images as the talking walls, and soon, the event became the subject of fear and fascination among the locals. The story spread quickly throughout the town. People who passed by the house at night thought the pale and eerie faces seeping from the walls resembled the revenge and prophecy tales of old legends. The media sensationalized the event under the headline, "The Bleeding Faces of Bélmez," while the reflections of light on the doors and windows of the house left haunting impressions on the minds of those who witnessed it. The first witnesses reported that while walking near the house, they suddenly saw the faces appear on the walls, seemingly moving like living beings. One witness described the experience as follows. At that moment, it was as if the wall was crying. The facial features became clearer, and the eyes seemed to look directly at me. Another witness said, "When I passed by the house at midnight, I felt as though the faces were whispering something to me. Nothing could explain this. It was beyond an ordinary crack in the paint." Following these reports, local authorities launched an in-depth investigation. Initial scientific analyses found no abnormal chemical composition in the walls or the materials used for painting. Yet the faces displayed distinct geometric patterns. This led to theories suggesting that the walls were not merely deteriorating naturally, but might have been imprinted with a conscious message or the traces of a lingering presence. Researchers delved into the history of the house. Documents revealed that the building dated back to the 19th century, but underwent major renovations in the early 1970s. During these renovations, parts of the old wall and flooring were replaced, potentially erasing historical traces and stories of the house's previous inhabitants. According to some legends, the former residents of the house had lived through misfortunes and tragedies. It was said that even after their deaths, their spirits remained trapped within the house's walls, carrying the secrets of their past. The faces appearing on the walls were thought to be manifestations of these tragedies and forgotten sorrows. This theory suggested that the house's secrets extended beyond mere physical phenomena and offered glimpses into the darkest and most indelible traumas of the human soul. Experts sent to investigate the phenomenon collected photographs, detailed chemical analyses, and thermal images of the faces appearing on the walls. Tests indicated that the faces were not the result of random paint cracks, but seemed organically integrated into the structure of the house. Some researchers theorized that these images might have formed under the influence of an unknown energy or supernatural presence. Other theories speculated that the phenomenon was a deliberate artistic creation or psychological experiment conducted during the house's reconstruction. However, the fact that the faces appeared over time and, in some instances, bled slightly, suggested that this was neither an act of vandalism nor a one-time occurrence. but rather part of a much deeper and more mysterious story. At this stage, sensational media reports and the fearful accounts of locals caused the mystery to gain international attention. Perhaps the walls of the house were not just part of structure, but rather a living reflection of humanity's oldest fears, forgotten sorrows, and tragic histories. From the moment the faces began to appear on the walls of the Bélmez house, they had a profound psychological impact on the local population. People who passed by the house felt as though the faces were watching them, speaking to them, or even carrying traces of their own past traumas and losses. At night, the cold wind swirling around the house seemed to merge with the whispers from the walls, forcing onlookers to confront their own forgotten fears. The skillful use of drama and suspense conveyed the sense that the house's walls were not merely made of stone and mortar, but also carried the silent screams of lost souls and shattered lives. This eerie atmosphere was reinforced through visual and auditory elements, accompanied by dramatic music and slow-motion imagery. Every detail, perhaps a faint face appearing in a small crack in the wall or the changing shades of color over time, left an indelible impression on the audience's minds, fueling their desire to uncover the house's secrets. As time passed, the mystery behind the faces and bleeding traces on the walls of the Bélmez house was re-examined through numerous new studies and technological analyses. Modern imaging techniques, chemical tests, and historical records shed new light on the house's past and the origins of the phenomenon. Some experts propose that the faces were not simply the result of old paint or plaster, but contained deliberate artistic messages, perhaps created by the former residents or a secret group from that time. Laboratory tests revealed unusual chemical compositions in the materials, leading some researchers to interpret them as encoded messages left behind by unknown hands. However, despite all the new findings, no definitive conclusion could be reached about the house's talking walls. Historical records were filled with tales of fear, tragedy, and secrecy, and the mysterious phenomenon remained an unsolved enigma that continued to perplex the modern scientific community.